Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Fragrance compliment factor. It's kind of an important thing for people when they're considering what fragrance to buy, what fragrance to put their money down on and bring home with them. Actually, probably for the majority of people, that is the most important thing that they think about when they're making a purchase. Because fragrances, especially at retail, ain't cheap. So people want something that has both versatility and a huge amount of mass appeal, because there's nothing that will kill your confidence quicker than having a fragrance, spraying it on and going out and feeling like, man, I smell awesome. Like I've got everything put together today. And then as somebody walks by you, you hear them as they're, getting out of earshot, say something like, oh my God, did you smell that? What was that? Awful. Ugh. Or having a situation where maybe you're at work or something like that, and people don't realize that it's you that smells a certain way, and they start remarking about how somebody just smells god awful. It's gonna make me puke. What is that? That is one of the worst feelings ever, and I've been there. So the fragrances that I have for you guys here today are fragrances that are certified bangers when it comes to that compliment factor, that mass appeal. So they'll take your compliment factor from a 0 up to 100. All the fragrances I talk about here today are going to be linked down below. Feel free to check them out down there. Let's get started. The first one is a cologne fragrance. It's the only cologne fragrance that I'm going to talk about here today. All the others are designers and niche. And this is one that I just got in. I'm really impressed by it, which is the reason that I'm featuring it here today, because it completely caught me off guard with how good it is. And it is Bravanzo Baron. And this is by Ramon Blazar, which is actually just part of Dumont Paris. Kind of like how Lataffa has Maison Alhambra and stuff like that. So when you look at this, it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot. Kind of a, plain black bottle here, a little flare on the cap there, but you can't really look at that and tell what it is. What this is, though, is a clone of Carlisle from Parfums de Marly, but with a little twist. I'm trying to think of how to say that, like Carlisle mixed with red tobacco, but Carlisle kind of smells like red tobacco. It's a whole thing. It's closer to Carlisle, but it has more of a sweetness there. More of like a little bit of fruity sweetness, warm spiciness in there. So it's classy like Carlisle. It's elegant, has big performance. It lasts a long time. It projects like a monster, and it's gonna be way smoother than red tobacco. So it's kind of in between, kind of in between red tobacco and Carlisle, leaning a little more toward Carlisle. Quality is fantastic. This stuff is super surprising. First time I sprayed it on, I was, expecting something decent because I was actually smelling this with another one from the house that I had gotten, but this just blew me away. I picked mine up from the perfumebox.com, actually used my own code, which is Gents. It'll save me 10% off the whole website. So essentially, if I shop there, I'm like, use that code. And there are, of course, a bunch of other codes that I have, which you can see here. So Max Aroma, Gents 10, Gents 20, 10% or 20% off depending on the fragrance. Twisted Lily, Gents 10, 10% off. And then, of course, all the other codes. You can use those anytime you shop at those sites. So there we go, Bravanzo Baron. This is sick. From there, we move on to a brand new fragrance, like new, not really available in the US yet, new. Jean Paul Gaultier Scandal Absolute. Hopefully it pops up in the US soon at discounters and stuff like that, but when it does start popping up, it's gonna sell out pretty quick, I would imagine, at least at first. I ordered mine off of eBay and paid a bit much. That being said, it was worth it. This stuff I feel like is just awesome. One of the better releases so far this year. The original Scandal Pour Homme and also Le Parfum are both really good compliment pulling scents. I think this is actually the best of the bunch, at least right now. I haven't owned it for a whole heck of a long time, but man, has it made a good first impression. It is sweeter than the first two Scandal scents. So when you first spray this on, you may be like, whoa, too much sweetness, but it settles in really nicely. Has a note of Mirabelle plum there off the top, which helps give it a little unique twist. There's chestnut in there, so you get a little bit of that nuttiness that's going to remind you possibly of some other scents out there, things like in the Stronger With You line to an extent. And then of course it does tie in with the original Scandal as well, same DNA there, so you can tell that this is a Scandal. It's not like, drastically removed or anything like that. And just like the original and Le Parfum, this is a compliment monster. When you smell it, you can tell just right away. The only problem is this is more of a fall winter time scent. And while I have given it some wear here in spring, as of when I'm shooting the video, it's not really a fragrance tailor-made for this time of year. After that, Myself from Yves Saint Laurent. Now, this is a fragrance that does not always get a ton of love, but if you are after something that gets compliments, this should be one of the first things on your list to check out. This has very quickly become one of the best-selling fragrances in the world for men. It easily is the biggest best-selling fragrance that's come out in the past probably 5 years, if not even further back from that. Because this came out in, I think it was August of last year, and just from August to the end of year, it was a top 10 best-selling men's fragrance by value versus all men's fragrances. And we're talking, this was only available for like 5 months, going up against, you know, the overwhelming majority of scents out there had the full 12 months worth of sales, and this still crushed them. So yeah, extremely popular right now. Why is it so popular? Because it's really versatile and a big compliment puller. People smell this, they go, oh, clean, fresh, a little touch of sweetness, not a whole heck of a lot. Easy wearing, I mean, you can pull it off anywhere, anytime. And when you wear it, people react. That is the quickest way to have a fragrance take off. If you wear it, it does well for you, word of mouth gets around, more people buy it, more people buy it, more people buy it. That's what happened with CK1 when it came out. That's what happened with Aqua de Joe when it came out. Kind of a similar vibe here, just in terms of how it's doing, and also because it's not like a super masculine scent. It's unisex, leaning masculine, but it's not the type of scent where you would smell it and be like, oh, there's no ladies out there that are gonna wear that. You know, Aqua de Joe and CK1, kind of similar in that way also. CK1 was like straight up unisex, but you know what I'm saying. So Myself, this right here, you gotta check it out. Yes, it's not going to blow away a lot of people like myself who have smelled thousands of fragrances out there, but for just an everyday wear scent that people go crazy for, it's a 10 out of 10. All right, let's go niche with the next one. Very affordable niche from discounters, like super cheap from discounters. Citra Poisé from Mancera. Now, this one gets pushback sometimes. It's a fragrance that's really popular in the fragrance community, has been for years and years. Like I just said, it's really affordable from discounters. As long as it's in stock, you can get this under $100 all day, every day. And because of that popularity that has, you know, sustained itself for years, it's been talked about a lot. There are people out there who are just gonna be like, no more Citra. But again, if you are looking for something that lasts a long time, big performance, that has great usability pretty much year-round, that will get you positive attention, that will do it for you. A little bit similar to Aventus, or at least it's been compared to Aventus. Honestly, spray them on side by side, they're quite different, but this does have a really nice, I just sprayed in the wrong direction there, really nice fruity opening, really sweet off the top. Has some leather as it dries down, that becomes one of the more prominent notes in there. I think bang for buck wise, it is a great buy. If you don't mind spending a little bit more, I do think Intense Citra Poisé is a little bit better, just to my own personal taste, but it is gonna be more costly even from discounters. So especially if you're just like starting to feel things out in the niche realm, you know, you haven't really checked out a whole bunch of stuff, you don't wanna commit too much money to buying a bunch of things, this is a really good jumping off point, and it's not gonna cost you all that much. Actually, you can find this probably cheaper than Myself and definitely Scandal Absolute right now. So yeah, pretty affordable niche. After that, Le Beau. This is the Eau de Toilette from Jean Paul Gaultier. So we have 2 Jean Paul Gaultier fragrances. And a cool thing, at least for people in the US, Jean Paul Gaultier, really popular in the fragrance community, right? So like people that are really into fragrances, a lot of the JPG scents that have come out here over the past few years are really popular. Le Male Le Parfum, Le Male Elixir, Le Beau Le Parfum, the new Paradise Garden, stuff like that, really popular. But when you look at the actual sales numbers, they are not among like the absolute top of the top in terms of popularity. For example, in the top 40, not a single Jean Paul Gaultier. Now, I'm not saying that to take shots at Jean Paul Gaultier, obviously, I'm not at all. What I am saying though, is you can get those scents and they smell absolutely killer and they get so much attention. They just are really, really, really well done by and large, but they're not worn as much. So what that means is it's gonna come across a little more unique. So if you don't mind about that, you don't care about that, myself, check that out. But if you do want something that has that mass appeal that we're talking about here today, but you don't want it to be worn quite as often, check out some of the Jean Paul Gaultiers. So that one, a really nice sweet scent with coconut in there. It's gonna give it a unique flair compared to most other things on the market marketed toward men. Another one that I think has great versatility. It's gonna be more of like a spring, summer, and fall fragrance, I would say, but still really, really well done. And if you can find Le Beau Le Parfum for a good price, I'd scoop that up too. And the new Paradise Garden too. After that, Parfums de Marly Altair. And this is one that grew on me so much. I think that of all the Parfums de Marly fragrances that I've ever smelled, this is the one that has grown on me the most. There have been some Parfums de Marly fragrances that I've smelled and not been in love with, and then time goes by and I wear it again and I wear it again, and I'm still not in love with them. Like Pegasus, I know a lot of people love Pegasus. I'm not a huge fan. And then Cologne, oh, no. And then there are some fragrances that grew on me a good amount, and I'm like, oh man, this is actually super nice. And you start to wear it around and you really enjoy it more than initially. But this one, first time I smelled it, I had it kind of like middle of the pack, just straight middle of the pack, where I was like, about half the PDMs are better, half are worse, roughly around there anyways. And then the more that I wore this stuff, the more that I smelled it, I was like, I'm gonna have to move that up. Yeah. And it just kept going whoop, whoop, whoop. And now it's like one of my favorites from the house. Oh man, just absolutely killer. So this one is really warm, it's sweet, it's spicy. You have cinnamon in there, you have vanilla in there, praline as well, little cardamom, orange blossom, bergamot off the top. So you have this really nice balance when it first hits your nose of warm spices that have been smoothed out a little bit. It's a touch playful, really sexy, inviting. It's a great fragrance for fall and winter time, daytime or evening, I would say. I know a lot of people would say leans evening, but either one. And it is one that you have to come back to, because the first time I smelled this, first time I wore this, I felt like the sweetness was kind of off kilter a little bit. It almost came across like a niche version of like Dunhill Desire Red or something. And I was like, ugh, just, and then came back to it. I don't know if it was me getting used to it or if the fragrance, changed a little bit, but I'll tell you, it just opened up, became so much deeper, much richer, and just overall a much more high quality smelling fragrance to me. Up next, we have 1 Million Lucky from Paco Rabanne. And actually 1 Million Lucky has a little bit in common in terms of scent profile with Scandal over here, Scandal Absolute. I would say 1 Million Lucky between the two is the fresher fragrance. I think 1 Million Lucky, for me, more like spring and fall time, kind of neutral weather, whereas Scandal Absolute is more fall winter. But they both share that chestnutty kind of accord in them, and they both have similarities with the way the sweetness comes across, especially as this one starts to dry down. In the opening, again, I think this is much fresher than Scandal Absolute, but still yet, there are some commonalities between the two. 1 Million Lucky also at full retail, not a bad price. I did a video not too long ago with some of the more affordable fragrances at full retail, and 1 Million Lucky was one of the cheaper fragrances on the market as far as full retail price goes, up against other fragrances at full retail. So there's a lot to like about the scent. It's another one that doesn't really try to copy something else out there. Has a pretty cool mix, like a really nice juxtaposition of some fresher notes and some deeper, sweeter notes that comes together in a way that's intriguing to smell. And it's also a really big compliment puller. So 1 million lucky, solid stuff. After that, Polo 67 from Ralph Lauren, which is also at full retail, pretty competitively priced. 108 is the full retail price for this fragrance. And at a time where some scents are coming out, over $200 in the designer realm, that's pretty affordable. So this is gonna remind you a little bit of YSL's Myself, which is why it's in here today. It has a similar clean kind of facet to it, the way that it comes across, but this one is gonna be a little more vibrant, a little more summer centered. So off the top, it has bergamot, lemon, and pineapple. So you're gonna get some fruity sweetness there off the top, and nice, again, freshness. It's actually not as overloaded with fruit as you might think with that top there. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely there, it's definitely noticeable. It's just balanced out nicely with some aromatics that you can pick up initially as well. As it dries down, you got a really nice, clean vetiver in there, just an extremely easy wearing scent. Spring, summertime, it'll have you smelling like $1 million. And it's right in line with what's doing really well right now, like what people are gravitating toward, what people are wearing. So the release makes a lot of sense. And it's another one that has grown on me a little bit since I did my first impressions on it. After that, Louis Vuitton Imagination. And with this being an LV, it is not cheap. No, it's not cheap. So this one retails for $320. Fortunately, if you want something that smells like this, but you don't want to pony up that much cash, there are alternatives that are more affordable, which I'll go over a couple, I guess, here in a second, but for now, we're gonna keep it to the OG. I think this stuff is fantastic. Really, really amazing for spring and summertime, which is probably why there are so many different alternatives to it. Alternatives, get it? A lot of citrus off the top here. You have tea in there, which smells, again, great. It gives you just this slight, like, bitter touch that really helps open up that citrus. You also have neroli in there, ginger, that gives it a nice pop, a nice zing when you first spray it on. It's an amazing scent, extremely classy, but also fantastic in any kind of situation, whether it's casual or whatever. So a couple of alternatives to this one, and there are a bunch of other ones out there as well, but some of the ones that I like the most. North Stag 3, and that's part of Paris Corner. North Stag is Paris Corner. So that one is really solid, comes in a green bottle, it looks like that. And then Montaigne Parfums Imaginary. That one is also good. And then there is also Zara Sunrise on the Red Sand Dunes. So those three are alternatives to this one. All right, we're at the last one. It is Spice Bomb Infrared Eau de Parfum. With this one, they have a lot of red notes, red theme. They kind of did the same thing with Night Vision. So you have notes like chili pepper in here, pink pepper, cinnamon. And you also have some resins in here, some woods, leather, I believe. Really nice performance, as you would expect from a Spice Bomb scent. It's gonna be better for fall and winter time. Nice sweetness here, really, really pleasant. And the spiciness works together quite well with the sweetness. It's balanced out really nicely for me. I would go personally with the Eau de Parfum over the Eau de Toilette as far as Spice Bomb Infrared is concerned, if you're just looking for like the best of the best. Another one that is extremely well known in the fragrance sphere, but does not sell as well as like the really big dog fragrances out there. So it's another one that's not a hidden gem or anything like that, but it doesn't get used quite as much, so it can be a little more unique for some people and still has massive, massive compliment factor. So Spice Bomb Infrared, I'm gonna finish this one up. How did I manage that? It's just, okay. I guess that's where it wants to be. So there we go, guys. 10 fragrances that will take your compliments from 0 to 100. Between these, you would be pretty much covered for the whole year. There's some here that are better for cool weather, some better for warm weather, some really for any weather, but these right here will get the job done. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.